Coach, your offense scores 28 points in the first half last year against Kansas State, 0 points second half against Kansas State. What did you do well in the first half that worked, and what happened in the second half?
I really don't think we did much good stuff throughout the course of the game. I thought we turned the ball over too many times. I thought we weren't efficient in running the football. I thought we had a lot of drop passes. The thing that we did well was really in the second quarter we big played them. All right, and that's something that we've put an emphasis on really all through the offseason. This is one of the games that kind of sparked, our talks about efficiency and just high percentage throws, high percentage plays, and making sure the run game's popping effectively. And that's when you look back and see how they played us last year. They played us how they normally play people. And I think once we didn't capitalize on running the ball efficiently and the drop passes, I think they started playing more man on us, and they I thought were a more physical team as well. So that's something that we've got to be on point with this week, is making sure that we're playing with a physical edge, we're taking care of the football, we're making sure that we're doing high percentage throws and being efficient with the football, and pick and choose when we want to big play them.
So with that efficiency, you're just 2 games in. Can you judge it accurately yet, or is it just way too early to say, well, we're a whole lot more efficient?
I think it's way too early to say, but I think we're on track to where we want to go. I think a lot of that, too, is just the maturity of our team. I think we're a different offense of where we were last year just because of the amount of snaps these kids have played. We wanted to play last week. I thought that was going to be big on just getting another game under our belts before we went into conference play. But, you got to just roll with the punches on that and make sure that we're practicing well and practicing at getting better each week at what we do, because as you can see when you sit around and you watch college football all day Saturday, it's a pretty tough league, and we got to make sure that we're continuing to improve as an offense throughout each week.
I know it's a small sample size, but you're converting third downs at a much higher rate than last year so far. What's changed, and why are you converting at such a higher rate so far this season?
There's a lot to it. It goes back to the maturity. It goes back to efficiency talks that we've had a ton of conversations about. But I think a lot of it goes down to the amount of time we've spent on third downs. We sit down as a staff. I go through it, 3 to 4 times a week with the staff to make sure that we are on point with what we want to call in these certain situations. So a lot of it's coaching, a lot of it's the putting these players in a better position to have success, and I think it's also just the maturity of this group of guys.
Dana mentioned it. What you're seeing from him is a little bit more aggressiveness, a little more man coverage in the back end than in the past. You have to kind of go in it with a plan of, okay, we may see both, we may see zone with the way they go about their things, and be patient or take your shots. How do you approach that?
Right. I think we have to be disciplined with really our communication, just understanding what they're trying to accomplish on that play. And I think they caught us in a few things last year when we had run game called and they shot to a blitz or to a box that was outmanned. And, we just didn't get into any audibles. We got to make sure that we have a good feeling of what they're trying to do to us and make sure that we get into the right play. It's going to be a big week for Will in terms of managing that, because you sit there and you study a lot of tape on them. There's not very many tendencies these guys have. You just got to make sure that these kids are on point. They're making sure that they can catch them in the right scenarios and communicate it out to everybody and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Maybe it's a matter of letting the play clock go a little deeper to make sure you're seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is get Will up on the line and just let him decipher it. It's they do a good job. It's a Bill Snyder coach team. They continually get better. Like I've been trying to say about our offense, we need to as well. You can see the difference of their defense from week 1 to week 3. They're playing at a higher level than what they were at the beginning of the year. They're just going to continually keep getting better, and that's something that we've got to make sure that we're doing the right things from an offensive standpoint, because they're going to be ready for everything we throw at them.
If K-State sort of sparked the conversation, is this a measuring stick game, you think, to know how far you've come as far as efficiency goes?
Yeah, I think when you start conference play, that's when it's going to matter. We've had a lot of talks, like I've been saying, but this is going to be time for us to go out there and see what we're capable of doing. But I think anytime you get into conference play, you got to make sure that you're playing efficient football.
Back to what you said before, is tempo kind of the not the way to go with these guys, or can you use tempo against them a little bit and dictate what they're doing?
I think you can do a little of everything. You can. At some point we got to be us. We can't completely change who we are just for one opponent, but there's some things that we can do definitely to play into our favor.
Obviously, there's a huge difference personnel-wise from Mississippi State to UTSA, but what did Mississippi State do in the run game that gashed them so badly 2 weeks ago?
They're a running football team. They do a lot of quarterback run game. That's why they do play a lot more man. They played a lot more man versus Mississippi State because they were doing a lot of quarterback runs. So they're going to get that added hat into the run fit just because of the threat of Mississippi State with the QB run game, which that's just a whole nother dimension. You guys saw that with Pat White for all those years. It's defenses are going to play them differently than how they're going to play us.
So get Will 15, 16 carries this week?
No, well, I'm out of that business.
Pat White and Steve Slayton going in the school's Hall of Fame this weekend. I was just wondering if you have any memories of watching them play and maybe thoughts on what those two guys mean to this program.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of them growing up. Just I don't know where exactly I was, but just they were fun to watch. I really thought that they put West Virginia on the map for me. For a lot of the people that were in the Midwest, a lot of the Big 12 opponents that we go up against. I think the Pat White, Steve Slayton, Owen Schmidt, those guys put everybody on the map. They were fun to watch. They were. You watched them versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I think Steve Slayton went off early in that game, which caught the attention of a lot of people. And then just to watch Pat White throughout his career, it's pretty cool to sit here and be a part of that and watch them get inducted this weekend.
Jake, going back to tempo, it seems like there's been a little less of it other than in the hurry up after a first down to maybe catch them in a package. Is that perception true, and is there a reason behind that?
For us catching them in a certain deal? South Dakota did a little bit of that to them. I think
And overall, what you've done so far this year?
what we've done. I think a lot of it is picking and choosing when we want to take our shots. I was big on tempoing after a first down and try to get a shot downfield and try to get something cheap. I think just over the course of time, I think with all the efficiency talks that we've had, I think it's good for just us to kind of not do that as much and make sure that we're in the proper play call.
Jake, do conference games feel different just because of familiarity with who you're playing? I mean, you probably remember guys from last year. They certainly remember you guys.
Yeah.
Scouting reports only change a little.
Yeah, they don't change very much. You still see a lot of bodies that that played against us last year, just not in starting roles. They do play a lot of different guys throughout the course of the game. I think going into the UTSA game, they're a little bit banged up in certain areas, so you see a lot of the backups playing in major roles. But you watch how Coach Snyder does his program and how he develops them throughout the course of special teams. And then they end up being in the nickel packages and substitutions and, for the D-line and safeties and linebackers. They play them, periodically throughout the game. You see them go from a special teams role and a minimal role into being a starter. So we've a lot of familiar faces. They're in a major role now.
Anything jump out from the off-week scrimmages or scrimmaging that you guys did?
I think these kids are ready to play. I think that it kind of hurt the routine of just, we were expecting them to go 6-7 straight games before the bye week. I think these guys are just anxious to get out there now. So it was more of make sure that we're fine-tuning the game plan, making sure that we're staying sharp with what we're trying to accomplish. And I think these kids are going to be ready. I think the challenge is going to be this week more than anything. I think they're locked in. We're going to kind of change up practice a little bit because we've got some good days of preparation for them, but it's time to go out there and play them.
BJ, going to your third down stuff, have a quarterback who can pretty much call a shot, right?
Mhm.
Receivers know where to go. I mean, just familiarity. And you are successful with it like you have been. Does that change, or can you even let it think about changing what you do on first and second down?
No, I don't really think about that. Really, first and second down, it's you got to have a good balance of what you're trying to accomplish. I try to make sure that we're running the ball and, doing our play actions and screens and our drop back, just kind of have a good mixture of all that, just not to have just all these tendencies of what we're trying to do. With having Will and being around him long enough, the familiarity that you're talking about, it is more comfortable from a play calling standpoint for him to be able to get us into the right play on third down. But really, first and second down, we got to play ball and make sure that we're setting up things later in the game, make sure that we're having a good flow of the play calls.
How much Saturday will you spend looking at their personnel? I noticed on their depth chart they've got some guys hurt that are still listed there. Linebacker, the safety, I think their backup corner. Will you spend a little extra time looking at their guys to see who's good and who's not?
We do that all throughout the course of the week. Saturday, you'll look at warm-ups. You'll see who they throw out there. There's always the game that coaches play in warm-ups of what they're going to show, who they're going to put out there. You really can't. You have a general idea. You really can't tell until you get out there. And I think throughout the course of the game and just how it's going, I think naturally those come. The matchups come about.
I noticed their safety, I guess, his arm was in a sling, but he's listed as a starter.
Number
for
20.
Saturday's game.
Yeah, 7. And 7's a senior, played a lot. A good player, had a really good game for CTSA. So, we're ready for all of them.
Jake, the defense has changed on third down?
It depends on who you are. I think, they're a pretty aggressive team on third down. They're a quarters-based team in the open field. On third downs, they play more man and blitz you. So, that's typically what defense coordinators do. But, they stick to it. They do a few things. They're very good at disguising it all. So they make it all look like one thing, and then they can easily get to a lot of different looks. So I think that's what makes it hard, is making sure that we can stay on point and understand what they're trying to do to us.
Okay.